Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Mind Set in Stone podcast, where we really try to cut through the noise in personal development.
Exactly. We take all that information out there and boil it down for you. We're looking for the rigorous, proven tools, grounded in science, not just, hope.
And our mission today is all about giving you a clear, evidence-based roadmap. It's about harnessing your brain's own agility, your potential.
Yeah, unlocking that potential. We're diving deep into let's call it the scientific architecture of manifestation. We're drawing heavily on this concept we call the source.
Right. And here's the thing, the big idea we want to tackle today. There's this long-standing promise, from New Age thinking, this idea that we can control our destiny by reshaping our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not just philosophy or mystical stuff anymore. Neuroscience, behavioral psychology, they're actually providing the hard evidence now.
It's true. We're moving way beyond those vague ideas like thought vibrations or something. We're grounding these really powerful concepts in how the human brain actually empirically functions.
So we're talking about real measurable practices, things like intentional visualization and deep metacognition.
Absolutely. And even ancient principles of self-care that we now know have solid evidence-based benefits. This whole idea that directing our conscious effort can genuinely influence our life circumstances.
Like the relationships we attract or the opportunities we even notice.
Exactly. It's completely supported by our understanding of brain function now. It's not magic, it's mechanics.
Okay, so let's clarify the source. When we use that term, what exactly are we pointing to? Because it sounds a bit out there.
Fair point. We need to be super clear. We are not talking about some external cosmic force or universal energy field. No, the source is the incredible complex apparatus that is your whole brain and your entire nervous system working together.
Okay, so it's internal. It's you.
Precisely. It's the complete integration system. It takes what you think your logical side, the prefrontal cortex or PFC, and it aligns that with how you feel that deep ancient limbic system.
Yeah.
And crucially, it also integrates signals from your body, your gut instincts, all your senses.
So it's like the whole system working together. Mind, emotion, body.
That's the goal. Whole brain alignment. Not just surface motivation, but deep trust. And really total ownership of how you navigate life.
So if you're listening and you want that shortcut, you want to understand how to stop living on unconscious autopilot.
Which so many of us do.
Yeah. And start actively designing your future based on actual science, then this deep dive is definitely for you.
We promise a quick but thorough journey. We've got 7 key actionable takeaways lined up, all grounded in how your brain actually builds, maintains, and even destroys those neural pathways.
We're going to cover neuroplasticity, overcoming that fear-based lack mindset, some concrete visualization techniques.
And even why curating your social circle and looking after your physical health are absolutely fundamental to fueling the source.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's start with the core engine behind all of this. Neuroplasticity. It sounds complex, but what is it, really?
Neuroplasticity, it's basically the brain's ability to change its own structure and function. It adapts based on what life throws at it, based on your experiences.
So the brain isn't fixed, like concrete.
Not at all. It's much more like plastic or maybe clay. It's fluid. It's constantly creating new connections between neurons, the synaptogenesis, and strengthening the ones it uses a lot. And this happens right through life, well into old age.
That's amazing because for centuries, the thinking was totally different, wasn't it? Medical wisdom used to say the adult brain was pretty much set, fixed hardware.
Exactly. But modern brain imaging, fMRI scans, high-res stuff that's completely blown that old theory out of the water. It's obsolete.
So what's happening up there? How does it actually change?
Well, there are ongoing processes like myelination and synaptic pruning. Myelination is like insulating the wires. The brain wraps frequently use neural connections in a fatty sheath called myelin.
And that does what? Speeds things up.
Massively.
Yeah.
It makes communication along those pathways much, much faster and more efficient. Then there's synaptic pruning. That's the opposite. The brain gets rid of connections it doesn't use much. Use it or lose it, basically.
So if I'm understanding this right, it's like my brain isn't just the computer, it's also the programmer and the engineer. I'm actually deciding which connections get faster and stronger.
Through your focus and repetition, yes. Habits, skills.
And which ones get deleted, like bad habits or old ways of thinking?
That's the power of it. You literally have the power to change your life from the inside out by directing how these pathways form and fade.
Wow. Okay, are there examples of this, like real-world proof?
Oh, absolutely. Both historical and modern. Historically, you have to look at Phineas Gage, famous case from the 19th century.
I think I've heard of him, the railroad worker.
That's the one. An iron rod went straight through his head, destroyed a big chunk of his left frontal lobe, specifically the prefrontal cortex, the PFC.
And what happened?
His personality changed dramatically. He went from being this responsible, well-liked foreman to someone impulsive, erratic, couldn't stick to plans, socially inappropriate.
So that showed pretty brutally how vital that PSC part is for things like impulse control, planning, social skills.
Exactly. And if physical damage can change behavior so radically, imagine the continuous, subtle restructuring we're doing every single day through our choices, our thoughts, our focus.
Okay, that's the downside. What about the positive? Can we consciously use this?
Definitely. Look at constraint-induced movement therapy, CIMT. It was developed for stroke victims, often people with partially paralyzed limbs.
How does it work?
Based on studies showing brain remapping in animals, they restrict the use of the unaffected limb, the good arm, say. This forces the patient to use the damaged, weaker limb over and over again.
And does it work, even long after the stroke?
Incredibly well, in many cases. Patients who were told they'd never regain function sometimes do. The brain literally reroutes the motor signals around the damaged area. It finds a new way.
That's radical remapping. It proves that persistent, conscious, directed effort, it can actually overcome what seemed like permanent physical limits.
It does. But here's the crucial thing for adults. Unlike a baby's brain, which grows and changes almost automatically, neuroplastic change in adults requires conscious effort. It takes persistence, and often it feels uncomfortable.
Which brings us to the autopilot problem. Why don't we change more easily if our brains are so capable?
Efficiency. The brain loves efficiency. Repetition creates these deep, default neural pathways. Think about driving to work. First few times, you're paying attention. After a year,
Total autopilot. Sometimes I arrive and barely remember the journey.
exactly, that's a default pathway. Your brain takes the path of least resistance because it's a huge energy hog. So we end up living massive chunks of our lives on this kind of unquestioning autopilot.
Reaching for the same snack, having the same arguments, sticking in the same job.
Precisely. Minimizing energy use, but maximizing stagnation, often. The longer we repeat a pattern, the deeper that myelin sheath gets, the more automatic it becomes, and the less likely we are to even question it.
So step one is becoming aware of the autopilot.
Yes, engaging our prefrontal cortex to practice metacognition.
Thinking about thinking.
Literally. Becoming aware of your own thought processes. Your PFC monitors incoming signals and uses feedback to direct your attention. If you're not consciously monitoring, guess who takes over?
The old emotional brain. The limbic system.
You got it. Which prioritizes safety, familiarity, past experiences. Metacognition is the tool you use to grab the steering wheel back, to consciously pull yourself off that autopilot setting.
Okay, so with all this science, neuroplasticity, metacognition, how do we reframe manifesting? Because it has this baggage, right? Like just wishing for stuff.
It really does. And we need to ditch that passive magical thinking idea. Manifesting, backed by science, is simply another way of saying making something happen purposefully through directed, persistent action that changes the brain's filtering system. It's not about attracting wealth with vibes. It's about the connection between a clear intention and measurable action.
But what about luck? Sometimes good things just seem to happen, don't they? An unexpected opportunity.
Is it ever truly random? Often, what looks like luck is the result of things you've already done. Maybe conscious effort to perform well, which got you noticed. Maybe being more observant because your attention was primed.
Or just being emotionally ready to say yes when the chance came along.
Exactly. We see the moment the opportunity lands, but we forget the weeks or months of preparation, skill building, or mindset shifts that made us ready to see it and grab it. That preparation. That's the work at the source. Okay, so the first really practical step in directing the source. It's about setting your goals from what we call the intention point.
The intention point. What's that?
It's that sweet spot. The place where your intuition, your gut feeling, and your deepest emotions, your heart, and your rational thinking, your mind, all line up. They're working together, in harmony.
And why is that harmony so crucial?
Because if those three are fighting each other, achieving big, sustainable goals becomes almost impossible. Think about it. Your logical brain says, take the high-paying finance job, it's secure.
Makes sense on paper.
But your heart, your emotional core, is craving creative work, something with purpose. That creates massive internal conflict. It's called cognitive dissonance.
And that feels bad.
Stressful.
Physically stressful. Your cortisol levels rise, sleep gets affected, you might burn out or even sabotage yourself because your mind and body are in this constant battle. Same if you, say, settle for a partner because logic or fear, maybe the biological clock says you should.
But deep down, your gut or heart knows it's not right.
Exactly. You've ticked a box, but the source, that whole integrated system, is deeply unsatisfied. The alignment isn't there.
So the action step. How do we find this intention point?
It starts with setting an overarching intention. Think big picture, bold aspiration, not necessarily something tiny, immeasurable tomorrow, but the direction you want the source to guide you.
Like a compass heading.
Perfect analogy. It should make your heart swell a bit, feel genuinely right in your gut. Something broad like, I will let courage and vision guide my decisions now and let go of fear.
That feels different than I want to earn X amount by Tuesday.
Totally different. It's about the quality of your being, which then informs the actions. Consider Pippa's story from the book. She was stuck in an unhappy marriage.
What was holding her back?
Mostly logic and fear. Financial insecurity was a big one, plus social pressure from family. Her rational, anxious brain was just overriding the quiet signals from her heart and gut, telling her she needed to leave.
How does she break through?
Through a physical process, actually. She created an action board, a visual collage of her desired future. And the central image wasn't like a mansion or loads of cash.
No. What was it?
It was a picture of a woman climbing a really steep, tough mountain. She looked focused, maybe a bit challenged, but utterly confident in the climb.
Interesting. How did that help?
It gave her inner truth and outer form. By making her logical brain look at that compelling image of the confident climber every day, she started to align her heart and gut feelings with it. The financial fears didn't magically vanish.
But they became less powerful.
Exactly. The fear around the money got subordinated to this much stronger, overarching intention of courage and capability. That's aligning the whole brain. That's the intention point in action.
Okay, alignment is key. But what's the second big obstacle the source often runs into?
The lack mindset. This one is huge, and it's fundamentally driven by fear. Deep-seated fear.
What does that look like in practice?
When you're operating from lack, your focus narrows right down. You think in negatives, what could go wrong, what you don't have. You become super risk-averse. You shrink from challenges.
You cling to what you've got.
Desperately, because you're hyper-aware of what you might lose or what you perceive you're missing out on.
And there's a scientific reason for this.
Oh, yeah. It's a primal feedback loop. Fear triggers the amygdala in your limbic system, the brain's alarm bell. It dredges up memories of past failures, past hurts, maybe financial traumas from childhood.
So it's trying to keep you safe.
Exactly. It creates this powerful survival loop designed for safety. But the tragic side effect is that it keeps you completely stuck, stagnant.
Wow. And there's a specific bias at play here too, right? Something about loss.
Loss aversion. This is critical to understand. Behavioral economics research has shown, pretty conclusively, that the psychological pain of a loss is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
Twice as powerful. So we're wired to avoid losing more than we're wired to chase winning.
Pretty much. Our primal brain is far more motivated to avoid pain than it is to seek pleasure or reward. It makes evolutionary sense, but it holds us back today.
How does that show up day to day?
It's that hesitation before investing in yourself, maybe taking a course. It's needing constant reassurance before sending an important email. It's staying in a meh relationship because the thought of being alone feels terrifyingly painful.
Even if the potential joy of a great relationship is out there.
Exactly. The brain keeps flashing warning signs. Remember last time, that hurt, don't risk it again. This mindset is all about preventing negative change, which unfortunately also prevents positive change.
So what's the alternative? The abundant mindset.
Yes. And it's a fundamentally different belief system. It's underpinned by the core belief that there's always potential for growth, for improvement. Challenges aren't threats.
What are they then?
Opportunities.
Yeah.
Rewarding in themselves. It's that growth mindset idea, the belief that intelligence, skills, creativity aren't fixed. They can be developed through effort and learning.
Okay, so how do we shift from lack to abundance, especially with that strong loss aversion bias working against us?
The simplest, most actionable way is to consciously reframe failure. Abundant thinkers don't pretend failure doesn't happen. They see it as data. Essential, non-negotiable data needed for success.
So failures become lessons, or not yets.
Exactly. Rebrand your struggles as not yets. If you look at innovation history, failure is often where the magic happens. Teflon. Discovered by accident when a chemist was trying to make something else entirely.
Really? What else?
Plastic, the microwave oven, Post-it notes, even things like smart dust. Many huge innovations came from experiments that failed at their original goal or were side projects.
Like the Eames chair? I read that came from trying to make leg splints for the military during the war.
Precisely. Charles and Ray Ames were trying to perfect molding plywood for splints. That didn't quite work out commercially as planned, but the technique they developed, it led directly to their iconic furniture designs, revolutionized the field.
So the failure, or the side project, became the main project. That's abundance thinking.
It really is. Let's look at Claire's story. She had this amazing social life, right? Really abundant, great network, lots of friends, this real joie de vivre.
But work was different.
Miserable. Stuck in a job she hated, felt invisible, kept getting passed over for promotion. Total lack mindset in her career.
Why the disconnect?
It traced back to childhood financial insecurity, plus a really traumatic redundancy early in her career. So she was clinging to the safety of this job she disliked. The career part of her brain was swamped by lack, even though her social-emotional brain was super confident.
How did she change it?
Metacognition again. Thinking about her thinking. She brought that long-standing negative pattern about money and work into her conscious awareness. And she had this aha moment.
Which was?
She realized the very confidence and networking skills that made her social life so abundant meant she was actually highly employable. She wouldn't likely be destitute if she left the safe job. She armed her logical brain with the evidence from her emotional social success.
So she applied the abundance from one area to the lack in another.
Yes. She integrated the source. It allowed her to start making career choices based on what she actually wanted, instead of just protecting herself from imagined disaster. That's the shift.
Okay, so we've talked about intention and mindset. What's next in actively directing the source? Our brain processes so much information, doesn't it?
An unbelievable amount. Millions of bits of sensory data every single second. It can't possibly handle all of it consciously.
So it has to filter.
Massively. This is where selective attention comes in. It's a cognitive process, where the brain basically filters out 99.9% of everything coming in, just to focus on what it perceives as important right now.
Who's in charge of that filtering?
Largely the thalamus. You can think of it as the brain's main air traffic controller. It directs the flow of information. And here's the key. If you don't consciously tell your brain what to prioritize,
It defaults.
it defaults.
Ah.
Usually to prioritizing perceived threats and things that are familiar. Survival mode, basically. So to manifest, to make things happen, you have to elevate your goals from just vague wishes to really conscious, specific targets.
How does that help the filtering?
It primes the source.
Yeah.
It tells the thalamus what to look for. Simply saying, I want a new job, doesn't give the filter anything concrete.
But if I list specific things, like company culture, salary range, skills I want to use.
Now you're talking. You're giving the thalamus a specific filter. You're priming your brain to actually notice that job ad you might have scrolled past before, or to recognize a potential networking connection you might have otherwise ignored.
Okay, that makes sense. What about value tagging? That sounds related.
It's directly related. Value tagging is the unconscious level of importance your brain assigns to every single piece of information it lets through that filter, and this tag influences every action you take or don't take.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you went through a really painful, messy breakup. That strong emotional experience might unconsciously tag anything related to new relationships as high risk or potential pain.
So your brain valuing safety, that lack mindset again over the potential joy of a new relationship.
Prioritizes avoiding that pain tag. So it might automatically filter out potential partners, seeing them as too risky, even if consciously you say you want someone. The value tag is working against your conscious desire.
How do we counteract that if it's unconscious?
We need magnetic desire. This is crucial. It's about injecting strong, positive emotion into your clearly defined intention. It's the difference between just daydreaming about something and having this deep gut-level certainty that it's right and possible.
So it's the emotional energy that drives it forward.
Yes. That intense positive emotion provides the fuel. Gives you renewed energy, resilience when things get tough, confidence to take new actions. It stops the dream from just being a wish and starts making it feel inevitable.
The author's own story about leaving medicine for coaching feels like a good example here. That must have been terrifying from a logical lack perspective. Safe NHS doctor job versus uncertain coaching career.
Absolutely terrifying. And her logical brain pathways were screaming, danger, stay safe, for years. She felt paralyzed, thinking she had to be a doctor. That was her only identity.
What shifted it? What created that magnetic desire?
It built gradually as she recognized the career no longer aligned with her deeper purpose. That growing emotional conflict eventually created a tipping point. But critically, she didn't just wait for the feeling to change.
She took action.
Conscious action. She started reading books like Working Identity to help her mentally reframe who she could be. And very importantly, she did this exercise. List 100 possible alternatives to medicine.
100? Why so many?
It wasn't really about finding 100 viable jobs. It was a neuroplastic exercise. It forced her brain to break out of that rigid binary thinking of doctor or nothing. It generated novelty and possibility.
So even though she probably only pursued one or two of those alternatives.
Exactly. The process of generating the list was enough to weaken the old pathway and activate the magnetic desire for something new. She set a financial vision, and then, because her brain was primed by the intention and the action,
It started noticing things.
real-life events, training courses, people, connections that aligned with that new coaching goal, things she likely wouldn't have even seen before. Okay, this leads perfectly into our next tool, which is one of the most powerful and scientifically validated, visualization.
Right. But we need to be clear, this isn't just fuzzy daydreaming, is it?
Not at all. We're talking about focused, intentional sensory immersion, imagining something vividly. And the reason it works is fascinating. Your brain often doesn't see much difference between actually experiencing an event and imagining it strongly.
The same neural pathways get activated?
Often, yes. The scientific proof is pretty compelling.
Like that study with the finger muscles.
That's the classic one. They split participants into groups. One group physically practiced flexing their little finger for, I think, 12 weeks. Another group only imagined doing the exact same intense finger contractions.
And the results?
Amazing. The group that only did mental practice achieved a 35% increase in the physical strength of that finger.
35%, just from thinking about it.
Yep. And fMRI scans showed they were actually activating the specific movement-related pathways in their motor cortex. They were mentally rehearsing the muscle firing sequence, which strengthened the neural connection almost as much as physical practice did.
Wow. Okay, so visualization isn't just about feeling good. It actually changes things.
It does. And it's also incredibly useful for reducing stress around new or challenging situations.
How so?
Because our brain is wired to see anything unfamiliar, a big presentation, a difficult conversation, a job interview, as a potential threat. That's the default.
What triggers the stress response? Cortisol, lack, mindset.
Exactly. But if you intentionally visualize that event beforehand, play it out in detail in your mind, what you're wearing, how the room feels, the key points you want to make, seeing yourself handling it confidently and well.
You're basically running a simulation.
Precisely. You trick your brain into thinking, oh, I've been here before, this is familiar territory. The brain trusts the familiar more.
So it lowers the threat level, reduces the stress hormone.
Yes, it prevents that automatic cortisol surge and shifts your whole mindset towards abundance and competence before you even step into the real situation. It's deep-level preparation.
Can we practice this? Is there an exercise?
There is. The positive you, negative you journaling exercise. It's really effective for highlighting the difference between two distinct neural states.
How does it work?
You draw a simple table, 4 quadrants,
Yeah.
physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Okay.
First, you take a minute to really immerse yourself in a memory where you felt stressed or failed or lacked confidence, maybe a time you felt embarrassed. Then you quickly jot down notes in each quadrant. How did you feel physically? Slumped, tense, shallow breathing?
Mentally, racing thoughts, self-criticism.
Emotionally, fear, anxiety, shame. Spiritually, feeling lost, disconnected. Then you immediately switch gears.
To a positive memory.
Yes, recall a time you felt genuinely happy, confident, successful. A peak moment. Immerse yourself in that feeling for a minute and then fill out the same 4 quadrants for that state.
What does this show you?
The contrast is usually stark. The author mentions that for many people, the physical quadrant shows the biggest difference. Slumped posture versus lifted chin. Restricted breathing versus relaxed shoulders and good eye contact.
And knowing that difference gives you a lever.
A direct physical lever for change. Even if you're struggling to feel confident, you can consciously choose to adopt the physical posture of confidence. Put your shoulders back, lift your chin. That simple physical shift sends feedback to your brain.
Signaling confidence and calm.
Exactly. It helps interrupt the fear loop. It's a way to fake it till you make it neurologically, using your body to influence your state of mind. Okay, moving on. The source, this integrated system of yours, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It relies heavily on your social environment, your connections.
Our need to belong is pretty fundamental, right?
Absolutely primal. Good connections trigger bonding chemicals like oxytocin, pleasure chemicals like dopamine. There's a strong correlation between having a sense of connection and purpose and overall life satisfaction, even longevity.
But there's a flip side to that connection.
A big one. It introduces this powerful psychological phenomenon called contagion. Basically, we're deeply, often unconsciously, influenced by the people closest to us, our tribe.
We pick up their habits, their moods.
Their habits, their stress levels, their mindsets, their beliefs. They tend to become ours over time. The research on social contagion is actually pretty startling.
Like what?
For example, studies have shown that if one of your close friends gets divorced, your own chances of getting divorced increase significantly.
Seriously? Just by association?
It seems so. We mirror not just behaviors, but attitudes and emotional states. And even more dramatically, there's research showing that if a close friend becomes obese,
Uh-oh.
your own risk of becoming obese can increase by over 50% in the following year.
Wow. How does that even work?
We subtly adjust our norms. What we consider acceptable eating habits or normal activity levels tends to shift to match those around us. Our tribe is constantly feeding input into our system, affecting our stress hormones, our thinking patterns, our behavior.
So if my inner circle is mostly operating from that lack mindset, complaining, fearful, cynical,
You're essentially baiting the source in chronic stress signals. It makes it incredibly difficult to cultivate abundance or take positive risks yourself. You're absorbing their limitations.
okay, this feels important. What's the action step here? How do we manage this influence?
It starts with awareness. The people tree exercise is a great way to visualize this.
How do I do that?
Simple. Draw a basic tree shape. On the main branches, write the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with or who have the biggest influence on you, your core tribe.
Okay, my 5 closest people. Then what?
Underneath each name, write down 5 words that honestly describe their general attitude, their energy, their typical behavior or outlook.
So that gives me 25 descriptive words in total.
Exactly. And those 25 traits represent the climate your subconscious mind is living in most of the time. This exercise forces you to reflect. Who in my tribe is actually fueling the source, encouraging growth, possibility, optimism?
And who might be draining it, pulling me down into negativity or fear?
Right. If your tree is heavy with words like victim, negative, lazy, critical, fearful, you need to consciously curate your input.
Does that mean cutting people off? That sounds harsh.
Not necessarily dramatic confrontation. It might mean identifying one person you want to intentionally spend more time with, someone who inspires you. Maybe one relationship is fine as it is, mutually supportive.
But if someone is consistently draining or toxic,
Then yes, you need to consider proactively pruning that connection. Or sometimes you can just allow it to dissolve more naturally by mentally disconnecting, reducing contact, and redirecting your time and energy towards more supportive relationships. It's about consciously choosing the energy that feeds the source rather than depletes it.
choosing our influences. That makes sense. What else fuels the source? We often neglect the basics, don't we?
Massively. It's ironic. We make sure our car has the right oil and fuel. We charge our phones religiously.
But we expect our brain to run perfectly on fumes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We expect peak performance when we're sleep-deprived, dehydrated, eating poorly, constantly stressed. The source, your brain and nervous system, needs consistent basic care to function optimally, to prioritize your best interests.
Let's start with sleep. How much do we really need?
For most adults, the optimal range is 7 to 8 hours per night. Consistently getting less impacts everything: IQ, mood regulation, decision-making, long-term health. And there's a crucial biological reason for this: the glymphatic system.
Lymphatic. Sounds technical. What is it?
Think of it as the brain's overnight cleaning crew. It uses cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid surrounding your brain and spinal cord, to literally wash the brain. It flushes out metabolic waste products that build up during the day,
Waste products like?
like amyloid beta proteins, the ones strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease. And here's the kicker. This cleaning system is way more active, up to 90% more active during deep, non-REM sleep.
So if I'm only getting, say, 6 hours?
You're likely not completing the full cleaning cycle. You wake up with residual brain fog or cognitive sludge. This leads to poor decisions, slower thinking, and over the long term, increases health risks. 7 to 8 hours isn't a luxury, it's essential maintenance.
Okay, sleep is critical. What about hydration?
Equally critical. Your brain is about 78% water. Even mild dehydration, like a drop of just 1 to 3%, can negatively impact your focus, your attention span, your memory.
How does being low on water affect thinking?
When the brain senses dehydration, it starts conserving resources. It prioritizes basic survival functions and pulls energy away from higher-level cognitive processes, the very ones you need for metacognition, planning, setting intentions.
I read about a driving study on this.
Yes, it was striking. It found that drivers who were even mildly dehydrated made about the same number of errors, like lane drifting or delayed braking, as people driving at the legal alcohol limit.
Wow, so feeling thirsty is already too late.
Pretty much. Thirst is a signal that you're already past the optimal hydration point. The simple action step. Get a good reusable water bottle and make a habit of sipping it throughout the day. Don't wait until you feel thirsty.
Got it. Sleep, water. What about movement? Exercise.
Non-negotiable. Regular exercise isn't just for your body. It's critical for brain health. It improves neuroplasticity, makes your brain more agile. It's a form of what researchers call environmental enrichment.
How does it enrich the brain?
One key way is by boosting a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF. What's that?
Think of it like Miracle-Gro for your brain cells. BDNF supports the survival of existing neurons, encourages the growth of new ones, helps regulate mood, and is vital for learning and memory. Low levels are linked to depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline.
How do we boost BDNF? Just any exercise?
Higher intensity exercise definitely gives it a good boost. But interestingly, varying the pace and intensity like interval training seems to signal a greater challenge to the brain, potentially pushing BDNF production even higher.
And enjoying the exercise probably helps too.
Absolutely. If you find movement you actually enjoy, the added pleasure response enhances the benefits. Remember Andy's story, the executive.
Yeah, the one who got stressed, developed asthma, gave up cycling.
Right. His body basically forced him to confront his lack of self-care. When he finally rearranged his life, rented a flat near work to cut the commute, freed up time in the morning, and got back to his passion, distance cycling.
Things changed.
Dramatically. Lowered his chronic stress, his asthma improved. He realigned his body and mind by prioritizing this fundamental need. It proves that the scheduling even 30 minutes of enjoyable, varied exercise, maybe 3 times a week, isn't selfish. It's essential fuel for the source.
So we've covered intention, mindset, visualization, curating our inputs. What's the final piece of the puzzle? Where does all this lead?
It leads to the ultimate goal, which the book calls brain agility.
Exactly. Agility. It's the ability not just to focus intensely on one thing, but also to switch nimbly, efficiently between different ways of thinking, different approaches to problem solving. Why is agility so important? Why not just get really good at one way of thinking?
Because life throws curveballs. Agility prevents mental rigidity. It ensures the source, your whole system, is flexible enough to adapt to unexpected challenges, new situations, changing circumstances.
How do we develop this agility?
It relies on integrating 6 core pathways. These are like the different colors in our cognitive and emotional palette. We need to learn to use all of them.
What are the 6 pathways?
Emotions, physicality, body awareness, intuition, gut feelings, motivation, drive, logic, rational thought, and creativity. Imagination, novelty.
6 pathways, and most of us probably rely on just a few.
Definitely. Through habit, training, or maybe just personality. Most people heavily favor 2 or 3 pathways and tend to neglect the others. You know, a scientist might be strong on logic and motivation, but maybe weak on intuition or emotional awareness.
Or an artist might be high on creativity and emotion, but maybe less comfortable with structured logic.
Precisely. And the danger there is rigidity. When a challenge comes along that requires a skill from one of your neglected pathways, say, that logical person facing a messy emotional crisis, the source kind of seizes up. You don't have the tool for the job.
So we need deliberate practice across all 6 pathways to become more integrated, more agile.
That's the idea. And the source makes a strong point that emotional mastery is probably the single most important pathway to focus on initially.
Why emotional mastery?
Because it has the biggest knock-on effect. Getting better at understanding and managing your emotions positively impacts your intuition, your motivation, even your ability to think logically under pressure. It's like the keystone.
And we're maybe not so good at this in modern life?
Often, no. Modern life, especially with digital communication replacing face-to-face nuance and the pressure in many workplaces to be stoic, it tends to dampen our connection to our emotions. We learn to suppress or numb the negative ones.
But those feelings contain information, right?
Vital information. Our limbic system is giving us data. Mastering emotions isn't about not feeling them, letting the feeling happen, but creating a gap before reacting.
Is there a technique for that? For creating that gap, especially with strong emotions like anger or frustration?
Yes, the SOP visualization technique. It's simple, but surprisingly effective. It's used with kids. It's used with high-powered executives.
How does it work?
When you feel that rush of anger or frustration starting, the heat rising, muscles tensing you, consciously allow the feeling to be there for a second. But then, in your mind's eye, you vividly imagine holding up a big, bright red, physical SOP sign.
Just visualize a stop sign.
Yes, that momentary mental interruption acts like a circuit breaker. It often helps dissipate the intensity of the feeling, allows your muscles to relax slightly, maybe prompts you to take a deeper breath without even thinking about it. It breaks the automatic amygdala hijack.
That pause. That's where the PFC, the rational brain, gets a chance to step in.
Exactly. That moment of pause is neuroplasticity in action. You're actively choosing to reroute the impulse from the reactive amygdala pathway to the more considered PFC pathway. Practicing this consistently helps you catch those emotional overreactions earlier and earlier, giving the source more control.
It sounds like hard work, though, creating new pathways when the old ones are so deep.
It is hard work. Let's not sugarcoat it. It feels counterintuitive at first. It requires repetition. You'll slip back into old habits. Your brain prefers the familiar, well-myelinated old road.
But we can build new roads.
Yes. And here's the encouraging part. It's generally easier to override an unwanted thought or behavior pattern by building a new, more desirable one than it is to try and erase the old one.
So the old pathway might still be there, but we build a bigger, better highway right next to it.
That's a great way to put it. You make the new pathway stronger, more attractive, more rewarding through repetition, so the brain naturally starts choosing it more often.
And how do we encourage this new pathway building beyond specific exercises?
The final key is embracing novelty, actively pushing your boundaries, even in small ways.
Like trying a new recipe, taking a different route home, starting a completely new hobby.
Exactly. Anything that forces your brain out of its routine. Novelty creates a mild, healthy cognitive dissonance, that slight discomfort of the unfamiliar. The brain has to work a little harder to make sense of it.
And that effort strengthens its ability to adapt.
Yes. It increases neuroplasticity. It grows the richness, the complexity, the resilience of the source. Every small new thing you try helps your brain gain confidence in its own ability to change, moving it away from that deep primal bias towards just staying safe and sticking with the status quo. It equips you.
Equips you with the understanding that you can change, that your brain isn't fixed.
That it's adaptable, it's regenerative. You really can overcome those deeply entrenched patterns, whether they're about work or relationships or just limiting beliefs about yourself.
So that brings us through the whole evidence-based toolkit. It feels like we've covered a lot, but hopefully it provides that rigorous, proven roadmap we talked about at the start.
Yeah, the goal was to show you how to move from being a passive recipient of life, stuck on autopilot, to consciously becoming the architect of your own future, and doing it using the brain's own inherent design.
It's that shift, isn't it? From mindless repetition to conscious creation.
And it requires integrating the whole brain, the source, aligning heart, gut, and mind, shifting neurologically from lack to abundance, priming your attention with visualization, and putting in the deliberate practice.
It really hammers home that you are the engineer, the designer, the housekeeper of your own neural pathways, your awareness, your actions, even small, consistent ones, your core beliefs. Those are the real tools of change.
They really are. They build that new reality. So we've covered those 7 key concepts today. And to wrap things up, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought, something to mull over, inspired by those visualization practices.
Okay, so here it is. Sometime today, maybe right now, or whenever you have a few quiet minutes. Take that time to vividly visualize the version of yourself you aspire to be.
The version that is truly fit, healthy, confident, successful, happy, loved. Really see that future self. Feel what it feels like to be that person, fully embodied in that ideal state.
And once you have that clear picture, that feeling, ask that future version of yourself one simple question.
What is the very first, smallest, simplest action that version of me, the fully aligned, successful me, would take today?
Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, what's the first tiny step?
That immediate small action. That's your starting point. That's your new trajectory.
Own that ability you have to change and grow. Be proud of it. Enjoy the journey of self-creation and keep those new pathways firing.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.